Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the AEW Revolution 2022 report. A lot of people are calling this the best pay per view ever. I don't see it. There were good matches, and if you take standalone matches into account, yes, this was a good show. However, nothing really moved things forward in such a way that this is a can't miss show. And being an AEW fan, to me, this was the worst of their pay per view offerings in terms of big money feel. That being said, nothing wrong with it, and I still expect this particular program to be better in value than WrestleMania 38 or anything WWE is probably going to do in the next, I don't know, several years. Just because I have lost even more faith in WWE in the last little while than I had even before. Anyway, certainly, lots of people have a lot of feelings about the nature of things within AEW at this point. Lots of people are fans of it. Other people aren't buying. Excalibur and Tony Schiavone run down the card. Layla Hirsch defeats Chris Statlander 9:58. I did not like the finish of the match. The match itself was fine. Statlander hits a backbreaker right from the beginning. Hirsch then counters into a springboard and does a bunch of strikes, beating her down. Match goes to the floor, trapping her arm behind her back and sends her into the steps. Drop kick into the steps. She continues to target Statlander's arm until power slam for near fall. Hirsch then cuts off Statlander on the top rope, trapping her in Trio and rendering her defenseless. Then goes for the cross arm breaker. Statlander counters into a cradle. Hirsch then slips into a springboard, but Statlander recovers and turns that into a slam. Trade of strikes into the center of the ring before Statlander wins the exchange with a backbreaker. High knee and a blue thunder bomb later for near fall. They move onto the apron. Hirsch then reverses Big Bang Theory and hits a run onto the floor. Back in the ring, Hirsch hits an Olympic slam and German suplex bridge for near fall. She then locks on cross arm breaker again, but Statlander's foot reaches the ropes. Statlander counters into double knees in the corner and then brings Hirsch back to the top rope. They have a awkward exchange up there. Statlander hits inverted modified powerbomb for a near fall, and then Hirsch rolls to the floor, picks up the extra turnbuckle from beneath the ring, and Statlander gets struck with it, and there we go. After the match, Red Velvet runs down to check on Statlander. I do not understand the fascination with Red Velvet. Don Callis comes out with a promo. Basically, Kenny Omega's music plays. Don Callis makes the entrance. He says that Omega isn't there tonight. They said that fans are going to listen to him. Callis insults tonight's card, but says it's a great night anyway because the Young Bucks are going to walk out as tag champs. Omega's not here. Callis is confident that Adam Cole will be AEW's next world champion, and he'll be a fantastic transitional champion until Omega returns. For the match, QT Marshall said Hook is cold-hearted, and this is really what it's all about. Hook then defeats QT Marshall in a match that's 4:47, the longest of Hook's matches anywhere, I believe, at least as far as AEW is concerned. Hook then takes QT down, locks on a bow and arrow right from the beginning. QT then reaches the ropes, lays in a bunch of strikes, follows with T-bone suplex before sending QT out to the floor. QT attacks Hook's throat and gains control, but Hook counters for a pump kick into an exploder suplex on the floor. Back in the ring, QT grabs the trunks and sends Hook face first into the turnbuckle. Suplex and elbow drop follows, but only gets a 1 count. Hook then comes back with a Northern Lights bridge for 2 count. QT pokes out the eye of his opponent, lands a back suplex. Hook then stops QT from hitting a top rope maneuver. Hook then lands overhead suplex throw, and then QT locks into the A Red Run for the submission victory from Hook. Crowd was solidly behind Hook, and Hook is, to me, one of the futures of AEW in general. And again, we go into a six-man match, which again, they're trying to get everybody on the show. I get it. But at the same time, did this match really need to happen? I know people that are nerds for people like Dave Meltzer will love this, but I found it to be inconsequential and unnecessary. Anyhow, House of Black, Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews defeating Death Triangle, Pac, Fenta, and Eric Redbeard. 1838. This is the second Redbeard match in AEW. He does look good here. Fast-paced match throughout. And if you like this sort of thing, this is the type of thing you're going to like. Pac and Black starts off. Basically, Pac hits him with a big boot. And then tag off to Matthews. Penta tags in. Penta and Matthews are out to the floor. Rana, but then Matthews meets him with a dive attempt. And then they exchange a bit. They go to a standoff. Crowd wants the big man in the match. And then they oblige. They trade tackles and strikes. House of Black takes out Redbeard's partners. Redbeard lands a dropkick and almost nails a baseball slide before taking out his opponents on the floor. House of Black has a numbers advantage. Penta then tags in. They attempt to isolate him in the corner but escapes reach. Pac then takes out Matthews with a quick kick combination and then climbs the ropes. Black hits a distraction, allowing Matthews to hit a draping DDT. King then tags in, hits a monster chop, and the crowd's buzzing after that. House of Black beats down Pac and then frequently tags, finally reaches Penta, who enters the match, taking out all three members of House of Black, Black and Matthews, then hits Sling Blades and a Cazador on the former, leading to a destroyer on the floor, probably the first of like 5 Canadian destroyers on the night, which is just goofy. Anyway, Penta then goes for the fear factor. Matthews is counteracting it. Redbeard then gets a blind tag, comes in, hits a somersault senton, hits a modified cutter on Black, but Matthews comes and breaks up the pin. Bunch of big moves. Pac rolls in. Black gets a near fall, and then Pac hits a poison Rana. Black comes back, levels lariat from King. Both men trade powerful strikes. King gets Redbeard, hits a great Death Valley driver for near fall, and then Redbeard to the floor, hits a big tope. Black back in the ring. Death Triangle gets the better of the House of Black, and then Pac lands a Fosbury flop on Matthews. Penta then goes for the Made in Japan on the apron. Black fights out. Penta recovers, hits a fear factor on the apron, covers, but then he isn't the legal man. Matthews then takes advantage, hits a curve stomp for a near fall. Black then hits Pac with a spinning heel kick. Redbeard tags in, faces off with him. Black and Matthews then dispatch the former, catches dive on the ladder but runs into a spinning heel kick. Redbeard then staggers and fights to his feet. Black then sprayed mist in the eyes of King. Hits the Fire Thunder Driver for the win. Pay-per-view begins. Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, and Jim Ross are your, obviously your broadcast team here. Eddie Kingston defeats Chris Jericho 14-12. Hugely physical match, hard-hitting, and obviously a really good match here. Kingston dumps Jericho right on his head to start a suplex, then hits a hanging neckbreaker after that, follows up with only a 1 count. They go to the floor. Jericho sends Kingston in the barricade, acts like a heel for the majority of this. Kingston hits an enziguri, but then Jericho fires up. They trade chops. Kingston pulls down the straps and ultimately gets the crowd more behind him. Jericho fights out and hits some chops and eye poke. Kingston returns and then hits a DDT for near fall. Kingston then souls that his vision's gone. Jericho takes advantage in the corner lariats. Jericho hits 10 punches in the corner that looked horrible and then hits a Frankensteiner for a near fall. Jericho exposes a corner turnbuckle. Kingston comes back with an exploder. Fight on the apron. Jericho suplex Kingston straight on the floor. Back in the ring, Jericho avoids a spinning back fist. Hits a bunch of Germans, and Kingston lands on top of his head. Lionsault follows up with a near fall. Kingston fires back with a desperation lariat. Jericho counters with a kitchen sink and then turns it into walls of Jericho. Kingston fights to reach the ropes. Jericho then thought he'd won the match. Jericho counters into a Northern Lights bomb into a codebreaker for a good near fall and then hits a German suplex after another codebreaker. Kingston fires up, hits a bunch of suplexes, and then gets a stretch plum submission victory. After the match, Kingston offers his hand to Jericho. Jericho refuses to shake the hand. Really decent match. Then we go to an unnecessary, three-way tag team deal with the right team winning, in my estimation. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus champions defeating Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and the Young Bucks. Rules were 2 in, 1 out for the three-way tag match. Anyone could tag anyone. Stupid. O'Reilly and Jungle Boy start off, and the former gains the advantage, tagging in Fish. Bucks enter the match, but Jungle Boy gets rid of them both with a rope rock arm drag. Luchasaurus chops everyone down. Red Dragon saved Nick from the choke slam. Jungle Boy then dives out on the pile, waiting on the floor because we don't need psychology. Red Dragon and the Bucks work together to regain control of the match. They are a pretty good unit and dismantle Jungle Boy. Bucks want to tag to Red Dragon, and then Red Dragon opts to work together on their own. Bucks then gets a blind tag. O'Reilly takes out Jungle Boy with the comeback lariat on the floor. Then Fish wipes out Luchasaurus for the attempted pin. O'Reilly breaks up the pin attempt from Matt, leading to the former hitting the ladder with a boot. Luchasaurus gets tagged, lands in the corner attack, and on all 4 opponents. Bucks get a high kick, and Red Dragon then hits the apron moonsault and hit to the floor. Luchasaurus continues with an assault by choke slamming O'Reilly into Fish and landing a standing moonsault on Matt for the 2 count. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus work together, hitting an Escalera Doomsday device for a near fall. Matt super kicks Fish, leading to O'Reilly tagging in and feeding for Matt. Fish and Nick do the same, but then Luchasaurus gets the lariat. O'Reilly and Matt continued the fight. Jungle Boy gets involved, but O'Reilly hits a rebound lariat. Red Dragon stacked up Jungle Boy with a assisted German for a 2 count. Fish hits an avalanche exploder suplex on O'Reilly and lands a diving knee on Jungle Boy and hits his leg before locking on an knee bar. Fish lands a diving headbutt on Jungle Boy, and O'Reilly reapplies the hold. Matt breaks it up with another run. Nick then starts with a nice run of offense, cuts off by Luchasaurus, hits a choke slam. O'Reilly gets the big man in a guillotine. Jungle Boy breaks that up, and then hits a shooting star press. Luchasaurus covers, but Nick breaks that up with a 450 splash. No psychology in this whatsoever. Matt grabs the title, but O'Reilly uses a distraction, hitting Jungle Boy with a near fall. Red Dragon hits high-low for a good near fall. Luchasaurus breaks that up. The Bucks then super kick on Fish, Jungle Boy, and O'Reilly before Nick lands a step-up dive. Luchasaurus on the floor, BTE triggered follow, but O'Reilly breaks up pin for another good near fall. Bucks then wants more bang for your buck, but Jungle Boy counters and hits German suplexes. Luchasaurus then lands a step-up dive onto the pile, another dive for no good reason, and then Matt rolls Jungle Boy up close near fall. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus hit the Thoracic Express for the win. At least the right team won. Taz joins on commentary. The face of the Revolution ladder match is up next. Wardlow defeats Keith Lee, Christian Cage, Orange Cassidy, Ricky Starks, and Powerhouse Hobbs. 18-18. Um, some people say this is better than last year. I don't like these multi-person gimmick matches anyway. Winner earns a future TNT title shot. Hobbs, Lee, and Wardlow send the little guys out right away. Orange re-enters, lands soft kicks, and then they kind of cut that off. Christian grabs the ladder and takes out most everyone at ringside. Stark sets up one in the ring, and then gets pulled down by Orange, lands hands in pockets, drop kick before nonchalantly making his way to the ladder. Christian then stomps him, sends Orange out. Both Orange and Starks follows to the floor. Hobbs then climbs, but Christian stops him and hits a reverse DDT into the ladder on the mat. Lee then enters and leapfrogs over Starks and Christian before taking them out with a crossbody. Catches Orange with a Rana and uses Orange Cassidy as a weapon. Lee climbs. Wardlow challenges him to strike, then faces off with his own stablemate Starks, and then there's a helicoptering of the ladder. Wardlow and Lee stopped Orange's flurry. Hobbs traps Lee behind a ladder and tosses Orange into it, and then superplex Orange off the ladder. Amazing strength by Hobbs. Orange gets nailed off the ladder. Christian sends Hobbs into the ladder bridge. Starks then dives through the ladder and takes out Christian with a spear. Wardlow cuts him off and cuts off the climb attempt. Wardlow's in the ring, climbing, continues to ultimately climb Starks and Orange there. Hobbs meets him. Lee sets up a ladder and all 6 men climb. Orange, Christian, Lee, and Starks all fall, and Wardlow and Hobbs meet at the brass ring. They tee off on one another before this goes very far. Lee throws Orange into Starks and Christian on the floor. He overshot that by quite a bit, and it looked like it was not fun for Orange Cassidy. Lee and Hobbs on the floor. Big men fight on the ramp. Hobbs and Wardlow work together, and then they rip apart the ladder. Hobbs uses his half the ladder to attack the other 2 big guys. Hobbs and Lee fight on the announce table, but Wardlow tackles them both off the stage. Out of nowhere, back in the ring, Starks and hits Christian with a low blow, climbs the ladder, and Wardlow re-enters. Danhausen appears and cursed Ricky Starks and Wardlow. Somehow, Cage climbs the ladder, but Wardlow cuts him off with a powerbomb. Wardlow box jumps his way back into the ladder bridge and powerbomb Starks onto it. Wardlow then climbs and unhooks the brass ring for the win. Then we have the announcement of the debut and signing of Shane Swerve Strickland, and ultimately that was pretty good. He basically says he's there to have good matches, but this is now Swerve's house. Then we go to Jade Cargill with Mark Sterling defeating Ty Conti with Anna Jay 703 for the TBS title. Probably a match that didn't really belong here, but they are pushing Jade pretty hard, so they needed her on the show with the secondary women's championship. They went high energy for the 7 minutes of the match. Conti gets in Jade's face, and then Jade kisses her for some reason. Jade immediately goes for the Jaded. Conti figures out how to get out of that, goes for an armbar. Neither woman can establish a clear advantage. Early, Conti then judo throws and pump kicks, followed by a swinging DDT for trouble. Jade is on the floor, floors Anna Jade at ringside, and then hits a pump kick back in the ring. Conti rolls up Jade for a close near fall, but Jade then goes into a chair shot, and Jade rolls up for a good near fall. Conti then hits a DDT for another near fall. Jade blocks TKO and follows with Aya Storm for a near fall, hitting a frog splash for another near fall, and distraction from Anna Jay allows Conti to hit a straight pile driver for a near fall. Conti then comes up to the ropes, but Jade stops her and attracts and hits the Jaded to win and retain. For the match, MJF comes out to call his personality, and then Punk returns to his ROH theme in original ROH attire. 26:48, to me, best match on the show. MJF gets defeated by CM Punk in the dog collar match. Beautiful storytelling, probably the best, easily the best AEW match in history as far as story is concerned. Maybe not for vibe, but certainly for story. And without a doubt, needs to be taken as a clinic in how to make a gimmick match work. Punk tries to pull in MJF using the chain. MJF whiffs it at Punk's face. Punk hangs MJF over the ropes, then uses ring post as a fulcrum to drive MJF into the buckles. MJF tries to bargain, but Punk isn't having any of that. Punk lands 10 punches in the corner, wraps the chain around his fist, but MJF uses the chain to tie Punk to the ropes and kick, and ultimately hits powerbomb. MJF counters a running bulldog from Punk and lands a bunch of right hands for his trouble. MJF gets busted open. Punk is also busted open in the melee here. MJF demands a microphone, tells Punk that to tell these people he quit, and then Punk tells him to go off and handle himself in much harsher language. In MJF continues promo and lands a diving headbutt to the groin for his trouble. Punk hits a chain-assisted Russian leg sweep, and a diving knee drop lands the corner knee and running bulldog combination. Punk is bleeding pretty heavily at this point, and he nails MJF with the chain a bunch of time. MJF digs his nails into Punk's lacerated forehead and locks the chain-assisted sleeper. Official gives Punk 3 chances to regain composure. Punk did so on the third. Jackknife cradle, forcing MJF to break the hold. MJF blocks the GTS and applies assault to the earth. Punk counters it into an Anaconda Vice. MJF pulls Punk's hair and rolls Punk, forcing him to break the Anaconda Vice. MJF goes for the Heat Seeker, but Punk stops him. Wraps chain around his knee and strikes MJF with a Shining Wizard with the chain around the knee, which was just brutal. Sends him to the floor. Punk then wraps the chain around MJF's eyes and laid him punches before nailing him with the steel steps. Back in the ring, Punk calls for GTS, but then gets his knee buckled, and ultimately MJF gets enough energy to wrap Punk with the chain and then goes for the piledriver on the apron. Punk reverses positioning and hits Tombstone. I don't like Tombstone on the apron, never have, never will. Punk then climbs the ropes and wraps the chain around the elbow. MJF avoids the elbow drop and covers MJF. And then there are thumbtacks revealed on the floor. But then Punk counters the Bulldog by biting MJF's hand. MJF tries to knock Punk down into the tacks, but Punk counters. Punk then is barely strong enough, hits the suplex. MJF has the same thing happen. Punk finally takes MJF down with a high kick. MJF fights out Pepsi Plunge, crotches Punk over the top turnbuckle before hitting superflex into the thumbtacks near fall. Chain becomes unhooked from MJF's collar. MJF calls to Wardlow. Wardlow finally strolls out in a suit, having won his match earlier. Places the Dynamite Diamond Ring on the apron that Punk can easily see. There's a bump into the tacks. MJF goes back first. Wardlow finds the ring and sets it where Punk can see it and grab and hits his opponent with it. Then we go to, and obviously Punk gets the victory. Probably the best character gimmick match I've seen since, oh gosh, I don't even know, at least since 1997, if not longer. But anyway, AEW Women's Championship, Britt Baker with Rebel and Jamie Hayter defeating Thunder Rosa 17-30. Honestly, I think this feud's gone on long enough. I would have liked to see this be the cap and Rosa wins. Crowd didn't care about this. and there's a bunch of interference and work is good, and I mean they try hard, but obviously not going there. Um, Visual pinfall for Rosa throughout, but doesn't give her the actual victory. Neither women really get an advantage early. Baker comes back with a neckbreaker, earning an advantage. Distracted official, Hayter attacked Rosa. Baker continues to dominate, and then using illegal tactics to maintain control. Rosa finally starts to come back after a long beatdown with the German, follows it up with a drop kick. Baker Northern Light suplex is next. Baker counters into an iconoplasm into an air raid crash for two of her own. She then hits a pendulum suplex for near fall. Butterfly suplex getting another near fall. Revel passes Baker a glove and she is thinking lockjaw. Rosa surprises her with a running drop kick and then hits a superplex and floated over into a fireman's carry neckbreaker. Sliding lariat follows for 2 count. Baker then follows up with a fire thunder driver attempt and neckbreaker and underhook suplex for near fall. Then we go to trading of cradles for more 2 counts. Baker then hits an avalanche air raid crash for a near fall. Rosa then hits tombstone, but Baker counters it and Rosa rolls through for another cradle. Rosa then hits tombstone. Rebel distracts the official. Rosa then dispatches Rebel before they trade more cradles. Hayter passes Baker the belt, and Baker hits curve stomp on it for a good near fall. Baker then goes to lockjaw, but Rosa turns it into a lockjaw of her own. Rosa then turns it into a straightjacket sleeper, but Rebel distracts the official. Baker then traps Rosa and then speared Rebel onto the floor in a cool spot before taking Hayter out with a lariat. Rosa re-enters the ring. Baker curve stomps her a second time for the win. John Moxley defeats Bryan Danielson, 20 minutes, 44 seconds. Physical technical war. The crowd is basically there. We want violence chants start. They perform a bunch of technical wrestling, spill out to the floor. Back in the ring, Moxley gives Danielson a slap. Danielson comes back with a snapmare and a soccer kick into the head. Moxley then invites him to slap again. Danielson obliged. Moxley comes back with a bunch of hard chops. Moxley then lays strikes in, forcing Danielson deep into the corner. Danielson tries to evade and gets a corner flip. Moxley takes Danielson down with a lariat. Moxley lays, kicks, and then turns into a dragon screw. Danielson lays in yes kicks and celebrates. Moxley recovers. Danielson targets Moxley's midsection. A chop sends Moxley firing up. Danielson cuts him off with a mule kick. Danielson then goes for the diving headbutt, but Moxley rolls through. Danielson keeps up the attack with a knee lift in the corner and a drop kick. Moxley then starts a comeback with a German suplex and salto suplex running into the roundhouse kick. Danielson applies flying guillotine with Moxley fighting out. He then lands more mid-kick and then fires up. Moxley then backdrops Danielson to the floor and then goes after both men and evades the dive, leading to a brawl on the outside. Both men hit elbow strikes, leading to a double down. Both were busted open. Moxley then is bleeding everywhere, trading knee strikes midsection until Danielson rolls up. Moxley then turns into a rebound lariat. They fight on the top rope. Danielson hits a back suplex for 2. Danielson then lands repeated elbows before locking on the Dragon Sleeper, and Moxley heads to reach the ropes and force a break. Moxley then locks on the rear naked choke, but turns into repeated elbows and has his own. Switches into cross-arm breaker, but Danielson turns into label lock until Moxley reaches the ropes. Both men collapse and clasp hands and attempt to kick others' head in. Moxley then gets the advantage and does so before applying a bulldog choke. Danielson cradles Moxley and hits a regal plex to break things up before landing a Bushido knee into a near fall. Danielson locks on triangle sleeper. Moxley fights out and rolls Danielson up for pinfall victory. Post match, after the match, um, Danielson gets in the official's face before, and then Moxley brawls. Security comes out, breaking it apart. William Regal, the mentor of both men, appears and tries to talk some sense into everyone. He gets Moxley and Danielson and slaps them both before demanding they shake hands. AEW Dynamite 3-9 lineup. Sammy Guevara, Scorpio Sky for the TNT Championship, and Thunder Rosa and Layla Hirsch for the number one contendership to the tag team, to the women's championship. Dynamite St. Patrick's Day 316, Guevara or Sky versus Wardlow, and AEW World Women's Champion Britt Baker versus Rosa or Hirsch. Tornado Tag 6-man match. This didn't need to be here. At this point, the show's getting long. I mean, I understand they want to let up, but I don't know that this was it. Anyway, so this is the Tornado Tag, which is basically 6-person chaos. Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Sting, defeating Andrade, Matt Hardy, and Isaiah Cassidy with Mark Quinn, Jose. 13:01. Darby Allin takes out Andrade. He does a tope. Sting gets rid of Jose, the assistant, propping a trash can over his body, allowing Allin to take him out. Hardy crashes Darby with a chair shot. Andrade torses Guevara into the front row. Darby and Guevara superplex Andrade. Hardy and Cassidy isolate Sting in the ring. Sting pops right up and takes them both down. Trash can shots. Darby hits a coffin. Drop splashes. Guevara lands double jump moonsault on Cassidy. Andrade then plants Darby in the corner before Hardy hits Twist of Fate on Guevara for a near fall. Andrade then goes springboard to the floor. Darby sidesteps that. Private Party work together. Private Party hits Guevara, has them perched on the tables on the stage in a little while. Guevara then fights back, climbs in to meet Cassidy on top, hitting an insane Spanish fly through a bunch of tables. Butcher and Blade run out and they stabilize some tables. Sting fires up and fights them off, but then eventually gets overwhelmed by Andrade and Hardy, hitting a low blow. Darby and Andrade fight back on the tables. Hardy then gets the advantage, but then collapses from exhaustion. Sting then splashes Andrade through a tower of tables in another ridiculous and needless spot. Back in the ring, Darby hits the Scorpion Death Drop on Hardy through chairs, followed by a coffin drop for the win. Like I said, didn't need to be here. And then we go to the main event, which I think should have been put where it needed to be. Anyway, crowd is surprisingly pro-Cole. Anyway, Cole lays in forearms early and yells at Paige, coming back, who gets some dominant strikes. Paige then dropkicks Cole out to the floor and sends him into the barricade a bunch of times. Cole gains control by avoiding the lariat, sending Paige arm first into the ring post, and then follows up, sending Paige into the steel steps. Back in the ring, Cole hits a Uranoshi and then gets a 1 count, and then piles Paige into a spinning slam for the 2 count. Every time that there's going to be a comeback, Cole manages to send him off, reversing, move into a attempt at a backstabber, follows up with the springboard lariat and a apron powerbomb before landing the Orihara moonsault. Back in the ring, Cole then manages to hit a rollout and a buckshot lariat. Paige is able to hit a Liger bomb for a 2 count. They then fight out on the top rope, leading to a great spot where Cole reverses Paige, top rope moonsault with a perfectly timed super kick. and Page hits Deadeye for a near fall, trading strikes in the middle of the ring, leading to Cole hitting super kicks but running into a discus elbow. Cole then follows up with a lariat into a crossface, forcing Page to fight for the ropes. Page then counters into basically a rock bottom type maneuver, hitting a tombstone piledriver for 2. They battle one another hockey fight style. Cole then goes to the Panama Sunrise. Page meets him with top rope and hits a moonsault power slam for a 2 count of his own. And then we go to grab the phone, and we'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail just to finish this off. And again, the match goes pretty simply here. Ultimately, Cole goes for the moon attempt, counter of the buckshot into the super kick before hitting 2 more. Page collapses, and Red Dragon sets the table ringside. Page allows him to hit the Deadeye through the table. Dark Order comes out, checking on Page before their presence devolves into a brawl with Red Dragon. Riley and Fish go up the ramp. Page hits them with the buckshot, buckshot, but Cole gets his hand on the rope, stopping the count. Page then uses the belt to tie Cole to the ropes. Cole had done to Page on Dynamite the week before. He then hits repeated kicks before driving one to Cole, and then teeters himself. Page then hits a crushing thrust kick and lowers the boom on Cole before hitting a buckshot lariat for the win. Post-match, Page acknowledged Cole and posed with the belt, and that's where we go to close out things.